Brought to you by Sheehan's Rustproofing. The Chiefs have just come out on the ice for a warm-up period. They're about to try for their 5th consecutive win. They're getting a good round of applause from their own booster club, who have traveled all the way from Charlestown to be here in Peterborough tonight.
Need more energy throughout the day? Looking for a kick to your workout? RockinThatIDLife.com has you covered with delicious flavors you've grown to love in tropical fruit and mixed berry, but now fall in love with the new fruit punch and orange flavors. Try them all at RockinThatIDLife.com.
Realtor Mike Van Ryn with Real Brokerage LLC makes the moving process easier. Work with a realtor who plays and studies the game and will work as hard as the boys on the ice to get you the best deal. Check out Mike on the web at strikewithmike.com and jumpstart your move today. That's strikewithmike.com.
Welcome to episode 18 of season 11. This is episode number 394, all time, of the often imitated, never duplicated, you wish we weren't so fucking awkward, bud. We're the original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast. Let's Go Blues Radio. Special thanks to our sponsors, RockinThatIDLife.com and StrikeWithMike.com, as well as Center Ice Brewery and CenterIceBrewery.com for proudly sponsoring the show. Please check them out right now. We'll wait. We'll sit here. We'll wait. Go ahead. Check them out. Don't forget to check out our t-shirt shop over at letsgoblues.com for some well-designed and fairly priced Blues-themed t-shirts. It's Wednesday, January 25th. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. To interact with the show on social media, our handle on all social channels is LGB Radio. Just search for us and you'll find us. And if you haven't done so, please like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, buy a t-shirt from our shop, yell from the top of your house, go up on your roof, tell everyone how great Let's Go Blues Radio is. Do whatever you can to help us out. I'm your host, Jeff Ponder, and I'm joined by the always insightful Bill Day. Kurt Price is on assignment. The agenda for tonight includes discussion about the Blues' recent 7-game homestand, where this team is heading, All-Star Weekend festivity editions, and the Canucks' strange head coaching situation going on right now. All that and more on this widely anticipated episode of Let's Go Blues Radio. So no Kurt tonight. You get Bill and I. Definitely the sexiest host is here. I'll let you decide which one that is. But no Kurt. So, Bill, you're going to get some airtime tonight.
Am I?
I don't know. I might just talk the whole time.
I know. We've been on here like 3 minutes already, and these are my first words.
Well, that's how it goes, my friend.
Oh,
like I said, once you host the show, you can talk all you want.
Someday.
Yep. So
we'll
Kurt's still dealing with the crud, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That guy. So we're coming up on a month tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
That poor guy.
Yeah, he missed the Christmas gathering that his work friends and I always have, and that was a month ago. That's craziness.
My goodness. So we've got okay, Austin. First of all, I'm going to punch you in the face. There's a couple comments here from our friend, Austin Lynch. He says here, though, OMG, Kurt, you fixed the center ice ad in the description. That was me. So give me that kudos, Austin, because I made sure to fix that today as I was going over stuff to do tonight's show. Again, so we got the Meeker says, hello, everybody. Feels better soon, Kurt. And then Matt Harris says, Bill, face of the show day. How about that?
Yeah.
No comment from you?
No comment. It's just face.
It's just face. You're just a face. Yeah, you don't talk. You're just a face. So any news from you in the past week? Anything? What's been going on in the life of Bill Day?
Too much work, and too much work. I don't have my favorite hockey team to bring me joy right now. So
true. Yeah, for me, kind of just shit in the house. The boy was sick for about a week and a half, getting better now, still on medication to improve. He had ear infections and sinus infection, and found out later that he had the germs for strep throat. I don't think he ever actually had it. But then we found out the wife had it. So she's been sick all week with strep throat. So I don't have my tonsils, so I'm less likely to get it, but I can get it. So I'm just kind of sitting here waiting for that to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So if it hasn't happened by now, I'm hoping that means it won't happen.
Well, lesson learned, don't let Kurt babysit your kid.
True. Very good point. Yep. That
'Cause you-
sick motherfucker.
You get the crud.
That's right. So official beers of episode number 394. Remember, you can follow each of us on the Untapped app. The absent Kirk Price is at Seat Price 12. You can follow me at jponder94. Bill Day is at Billy Blue Note 33. Bill, what do you got for us tonight?
I'm going with an oldie and a goodie, and something that's not going to completely knock my overly tired ass out in one drink. The Founder's Breakfast.
Tilt her a little bit. That's a little better. Here you go.
Well, Founder's Breakfast Stout. I've had it on the show a million times. It is it's probably my desert island beer. If I were to be dropped on a desert island with only one beer for the rest of my life, it would be it. So can't go wrong with this amazing coffee stout.
I got a couple different choices tonight. I went to Sam's the other day, and they have a pretty nice actually selection of the bigger packs, 12 to 24 packs of beer. So I stocked up last night, or a couple nights ago. Got some Citywide, which is a great one. Got some Pale Ale from Schlafly. Even picked up some Coors Light just for the hell of it. Of course, I put all these in front of me. We'll see how many of them I drink. But the one that I am sticking with tonight as my beer of the episode is the Urban Underdog, an American lager from Urban Chestnut. Again, just a good smooth beer that I could chug if I wanted to. It's a good chugging beer, but I'm not going to do that because I am 37 years old. So we don't do that anymore, right? Every now and then I'll admit, okay, I take that back. So the wife and I think I mentioned before, she's a big Chiefs fan. We went to the Chiefs game. Well, not the game. We went to the local Chiefs bar to watch the Chiefs game. Weber's Front Row in Webster Groves.
Yeah.
And we went there, and it was a great time. And again, I'm not a Chiefs fan myself. I support them because they're the state team. And like I said, the wife's a fan. I've got family that are fans. But I'll admit, when they won, if they won, I said, okay, if they win, I'm gonna chug a beer. And I did. First time I've chugged a beer in probably 10 years. Not even going to lie about that. It's been a long time. So brought back to my college days. Oh. I got a little Matt Harris making fun of me here. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Bill?
Yeah, I was going to apologize. A car drove by, and my dog has taken to barking at everything that drives by. And that's often, so I apologize. But chugging beers is one of those things that there are like 2 times I do it, and one is I will chug a shandy after I get done cutting the grass in the summer. There's nothing better than that. Like,
yeah,
just falling back into your deck chair, chugging a beer. The other time is shower beer, which is a very rare occasion.
I do love myself a good shower beer. And I've found there's only certain beers that are good in the shower. It's funny because I remember there was one time years ago where I grabbed a shower beer, or I was going to go grab a shower beer, and I'm looking in the fridge, and my wife is like, just, what are you doing? What are you looking for? I was like, we don't have any good shower beer. She's like, we've got beer in a can. That's what you're looking for, right? And I'm like, no, beer in a can is not the only thing that constitutes a shower beer. And she thought I was insane. Only certain beer. Do you have a go-to shower beer?
The last one that I did was wasn't too long ago, actually. It was after a very long day of trying to get the garage to a place where we could get at least one car in, because we're
Oh
still
yeah, that's
digging
a couple
out
weeks
from our
ago.
messy move. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was I think it was Surly Furious. I had I had gotten some of those earlier in the year and still had one in the back of the fridge. I'm like, it's time for this one. And
Yeah.
it worked pretty well. Usually I go for something lighter, but that no, I take it back. It was a holiday ale, the Boulevard.
Nice.
They're one of their holiday ales. And it was a red can, but it was great.
Yeah, for me, this is actually my shower beer is the Citywide. I don't know what it is, but it just hits me right when I'm in a nice warm shower, and just there's nothing beats it. I've had people tell me that shower beers are for Hoosiers. Okay, sure, fine, call me a Hoosier, but I don't know. There's nothing like it for me. It's like it's usually on Fridays is the only time I'll do it, because it's like, it's Friday, weekend's coming, weekend's here, I guess. And, work's done for the day. And okay, I just worked out. Now it's time to have a couple drinks and relax. And it's just shower beer, man. This
Yeah.
is where the party starts. So, well, we got a couple comments here we'll get to real quick. Kurt Price, our friend in the chat, says Busch Light isn't the best anything. Oh, he said, I was told that Busch Light is the best shower beer. That can't be right. Busch Light isn't the best anything. I agree with you. And he says, I wouldn't drink Busch if it were free. I've had it when it was dirt cheap. No thanks. Stag is my go-to cheap local beer. And I'll say, again, I mentioned Coors Light. This is my go-to cheap beer. I'm a Silver Bullet kind of guy, so that's the one I go to. It's not local, but that's okay.
Yeah, I at this point in my life, I don't have one of those. Like I just, Excel shandies are fairly cheap in the summer and easy to stock in the fridge. That and the 312 shandies. Anything like that, that's kind of my cheaper go-to beers to stock the fridge with.
I'm with you. I'm not a big, like, at this point in my life, I'm not buying the cheap beer at all. I will say the only time I do is when I know we're gonna have like anyone over. Like I have certain people in my life who will literally, they don't care what the beer is, they just want to drink beer. So I'll say, okay, well then I'm not gonna go and buy, semi-expensive beer. I'll put some Coors Light in the fridge and they can drink that and I'll drink my beer. So, and after a couple, I'll be like, yeah, I can switch to Coors Light. I won't notice the difference.
Yeah.
My goodness, there's some mom talk going on. There's some mom talk going on in the chat right now. Good Lord. Ken Morris, I got to agree with you here. My favorite beer is free beer. I'm with you. Hang out with me one night, Ken. Come down to St. Louis. You'll have a couple free beers on you. Kurt says he'll buy them. Haha, he's not here to refute.
He's in the chat, though.
That's okay. We will just ignore him when he says he won't. So we're going to take a break here, everybody. We'll be right back with some Blues talk, unfortunately. The Blues wrap up their season-long 7-game homestand with losses to Chicago and Buffalo. We'll try and understand what went wrong on the other side of this break from our friends over at rockinthatidlife.com. This is St. Louis. This is... Wow, that was harkened back to our first season. This is Let's Go Blues Radio. Every beer league hockey night, I grab my hockey bag and sticks and throw them in the trunk of my car. And the very next thing I do, I mix up a boost of energy courtesy of rockinthatidlife.com. It's formulated to break up its delivery in 3 ways, which helps me get through all 3 periods of hockey. Phase 1 provides a rapid onset of energy, concentration, alertness, and motivation. By period 2, I'm receiving a dose of sustained energy, increased focus, metabolism, cognitive function, performance, and feelings of well-being, which I need with the way I play. In Phase 3, I'm getting fatigue protection without jitters and crash, an elevated mood, and a reduction of fluid retention to help me make the big play when it counts. This same triphasic approach helps me when I drink it during work hours or simply just for a pick-me-up when I need it. Try one of the 4 energy flavors by visiting rockinthatidlife.com, but make sure to email Dustin at rockinthatidlife@gmail.com and tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you to receive an additional 10% off your order. That's rockinthatidlife.com. Yeah, Kurt Price over in the chat. That's one of my favorite memories as a kid, hearing that every game. It always meant that's game time, right? This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yep. It's I've listened to a lot of games on the radio to start at least this year. And it takes me back every time I hear it. I am, 7 years old, driving around with, coming home from hockey, and that comes on, and it's no better nostalgic feeling for me.
Yep. I was listening to the radio last night with the Blues and Sabres game and hearing Kerber talk about, I think that was his first season with the Blues. He was talking about the Wednesday night wonder that we mentioned before, the 5-0 comeback against the Maple Leafs. He was talking about that game, and it just instantly brings back this rush of memories for me when I hear, because he called the game and he was talking about how he remembers calling it. And again, it just reminds me of sitting on my couch. I think I had an early hockey game myself that night, and we got home and it was already 3-0 Maple Leafs by the time we got home, and just my dad saying, "Why are we even watching this shit?" And then they go out on 5-0 in the third, and he's like, "I'm turning this shit off." And we turned on something else, and then I remember just commercial break on whatever we were watching. He turns it back on, and it was 5-1. I think it was 5-1, and the Maple Leafs took a penalty. And that's when Ken Wilson made the comment, "You don't think, do you?" Do you remember that? I think it was Bernie on the call with him, and Bernie was like, "Well," and then they scored right on that power play. I think it was Al McInnes slap shot from the point. And I remember my dad going to turn it off again, and I'm like, "Nope, we got to watch it now." And he's like, "They ain't scoring 3 more goals." I'm like, "Yeah, they are." It's like, at least just give them a chance. This team's pretty damn good. So this is a much different team we're going to be talking about here tonight. The Blues, in their 7-game homestand, they go 3-4-0 in their season-long 7-game homestand. So they play. So we'll run down these games real quick here. First game was that first one against Calgary. It was a 4-3 overtime win, and then a 4-1 loss to Calgary, then a 4-2 loss to Tampa, 2-1 win versus Ottawa, 5-2 win versus Nashville, 5-2 loss to Chicago, which may rank as one of the worst losses we've seen this team have in years. And then a 5-3 loss to Buffalo just this past, was that last night? Was that last night?
Yes.
That was last night. Yes.
Yes. Feels like 5 years ago, but it was.
It does. It does. So going into the homestand, the Blues were 7-8-2 at home. That was for 25th in the league with a .471% winning percentage. So you kind of, and we talked about this last week, that their record at home is awful. And it's okay. 7-game homestand here. Let's see what they can do. Not saying, because, there's some tough teams there. Calgary, they're battling for a playoff spot. Tampa's clearly one of the best in the league. Ottawa's, I think, slightly underperforming. Nashville, clearly good team. Chicago is fucking awful. Buffalo's having a decent season. So it wasn't an easy homestand, but you're like, okay, you've been pretty rough at home of late. Let's see you get some wins, some big wins here. I think the one that stands out clearly is the Chicago game. You win that one, all of a sudden you're 4-4-0 on your homestand. Okay, not terrible, but just you expected more. And after the homestand now, the Blues are 10-12-2 at home. Again, stay in 25th, standing pat with a .458 winning percentage at home. Awful. You thought those numbers would climb a little bit, even with the injuries. You were hoping those numbers would climb at home. They got a 3-game road trip coming up, so it'll be interesting to see how they react now with the 3-game road trip. But not a good look at home in your season-long homestand.
Yeah, just it started off pretty promising with that hard fought overtime win against Calgary, and then 2 nights later they just look like a different team. Didn't expect a whole lot against Tampa, and I think that was the result that I expected. Great games against Ottawa, Nashville, probably the best game the Blues have played all season, most complete game they've played all season. So going into that Chicago game, you're thinking, great. The Hawks have been playing well. I think they had won 5 of 6 coming into that game, but just like last night, the last 2 nights, the wheels fall off very early in the game, and they can't ever get back into it completely, and it's so disappointing. The Sabres had a great start to the season and have they're outside looking in right now themselves. So really, these were points you had to get, and if there was any hope of salvaging this season, I think it would have been signaled by back-to-back wins in the last 2 games of this homestand to bring us back to 500. That's all.
I mean, back-to-back wins put you at 5-3 on the, or 5 and
2. No,
5-2. 4. We
4 and
can't
3.
do math, folks.
No, it would be 4 and 3. You screwed yourself up earlier because you said they would go 4 and 4 on a 7-game homestand.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yep, you're right. Holy
Yep.
shit. No, no, and that's and what Kurt said in the chat here. Chicago may have been the straw that broke this team this year. That game, and you're right, Bill. The Blackhawks were playing some good hockey going into the Blues game, but they allowed 3 goals on 4 shots. Was that what it was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Binnington's worst game, I thought.
Yeah, he didn't play great. I didn't like his game, but I don't think he, again, I'm not trying to say that he wasn't in fault at all, but there was some backdoor chances again by the Blackhawks. Just utterly bad overall defense, including your goaltending, that you needed to have. Again, maybe you look at each goal in a microscope and say Binnington should have had that, or maybe you say Binnington couldn't have had that one. You got to come up with big saves. You got to make the big saves every now and then. And when you're going down 3-0 against a shit hockey team who is, let's face it, they are doing everything in their fucking power to tank and get Connor Bedard. And to lose that game, and it just they came back and they made it a game. But man, when you're in a 3-0 hole, and you just 3 goals on 4 shots, that just cannot happen to a team that's fighting for a playoff spot.
No. And, going back to Binnington real quick, the Lafferty breakaway goal, that was just bad. I mean, he left that 5-hole wide open. It was date night or something. I don't know.
I thought of you when that goal happened. I was like, because I remember, I think it was last year, Kurt said something about, yes, breakaways can be a goalie's fault too. And I remember thinking like, oh, what's Bill going to say to that? And I remember you nodding your head and going, yeah, they can be. And that was one of those examples. Was he just not set? What was the issue there? He let that just slip right through him.
Yeah, I think he had to have been convinced that Lafferty was going to try to go upstairs on him. That seems to be the book. Everybody tries to go glove side high on him this year, and he left that 5-hole wide open. And all it takes, right? He reacted to it, but it just half a second too late, and NHL caliber player, even on a shit team like the Blackhawks, is going to hit that every time.
Yeah, that was bad. And yeah, the Buffalo game. Buffalo has a good offense. Tage Thompson had a big game. Jeff Skinner always seems to rip the Blues apart, but it seemed like every single chance that they had to clear the puck out of their zone to get it out, they couldn't do it. I think it was. I'm drawing a blank on who it was. There was somebody, I think it was the third goal, where I think it was, I'm so sorry. I should have notes here, folks. I'm terrible. The puck was in the middle. Blues had a chance to clear. There was 3 Blues players there, and they just miffed it. Just absolutely didn't do anything with the puck. And then all of a sudden, it's in the back of your net. And that's what's going to happen against any NHL caliber team. And that's what happened to this team multiple times. Again, multiple backdoor goals we've seen in the past week, which is not a shock with this team anymore. Just in their own zone. It's and again, I know I said last week, this defense was built to manage the pucks. When they don't have the puck, they look lost. And they looked lost a lot in these last 2 games because they don't know how to defend. And we'll get to this a little bit more after the next break. But, I mean, good Lord, they don't look like a team that understands how defensive structure works in hockey.
No, not at all. And to start that game last night, I do fault Berube a little bit. We don't want to break down the shit that was that game, but to start it off, start off with your third or fourth line, whatever you were calling it at that point, with a defensive pair of Tyler Tucker and Torrey Krug, and you put Tucker on the right. That hung him out to dry. He had an extended shift. Krug changed out for Parayko, and Parayko and Tucker together have no chemistry. And by the time the Blues top line got on the ice, we were down 2-0. It was absolute worst possible start.
Well, and man, I hate to, because I'm going to do this later too. I hate to completely dog on Colton Parayko, but yeah, you can't put a rookie out there with Colton Parayko. That's pretty much the worst player in the NHL to put a rookie on a defensive pairing with, because he is going to leave him to hang out and dry left and right. He's going to basically try to stick check rather than pick up guys in front. And Tyler Tucker needs a guy that can kind of show him the ropes a little bit. That's not Colton Parayko. We talked about it last week. Is he at Eric Brewer level? He's getting pretty goddamn close. So, again, Blues are now going on the road for a 3-game trip. I guess this was Kurt that added this language in here. Blues now go on the road for a 3-game trip for me to poop on. I definitely did not write that. Thanks for that, buddy. They go against Arizona Thursday night, Avalanche on Saturday afternoon, and then Winnipeg on Monday. Then they are back again, unfortunately, for a 4-game homestand against the Coyotes, Panthers, Devils, and Avalanche. Now, the good news with that homestand coming up after this road trip, Coyotes are not having a good year. Panthers are not having a good year. Devils have been up and down. Avalanche are starting to hit their stride, but still not where you'd expect them to be. So you got to hope that on this next homestand or on this next road trip, they got to figure it out because you got to start getting these points. Otherwise, I think you look at the next 7 games, the 3-game road trip and the 7-game or 4-game homestand. If they're not marginally, like even just marginally better, just 5-2, even 4-3 on this road or this next 7-game step, I think you got to throw in the towel in the season. They have got to gain points here.
Right. I think it's got to be on the road trip because they come home. You see, they got the 3 games on the road. They come home. They get 2 games in before the All-Star break. I think Armstrong has got to start preparing for the All-Star break and potential trade talks. Usually doesn't happen at the All-Star break, but you have to have your strategy in place in case it does. And I think he's going to be focused on that and ready to make some decisions on this team going down to Florida for the All-Star break.
I agree with that.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Almost missed it. I'm glad I got it. Thank you, the Meeker. He actually reminded me in the chat there. So we will actually continue this discussion at the other end of this break. Blues did not update that copy, so we'll just say the Blues have not been good lately. As we talked about the last 2 games, we'll talk about them a little bit more. What do you do with this defense? What do you do with the coaching? A lot of questions going on with this team right now. We'll talk about it in a little bit more. So don't go anywhere. Now we're going to hear from our friend over at strikewithmike.com. During the magical 2019 playoff run, I was in the midst of buying my current home. Every time I spoke with my realtor, obviously, home buying was the discussion. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't stop thinking about what was destined to happen for our St. Louis hockey team. If only there were a realtor who could have walked me through the process, held my hand when needed, but was there to be a sounding board when I wanted to complain about a certain hand pass goal. Let realtor Mike Burgoyne with Real Brokerage be that for you. He'll have your needs top of mind as he skates you through the home buying or selling process, dangling you past any obstacles and assisting on all your home goals. Check out strikewithmike.com for more information or give him a call directly at 314-753-4060. That's Mike Burgoyne with Real Brokerage at strikewithmike.com, and that number again is 314-753-4060. Don't forget to tell Mike that Let's Go Blues Radio sent you. So before we get to the next topic, going to kind of cut in here with a little discussion from Jeremy Rutherford, friend of the show, recently posted an article, actually tonight, a couple hours before we went on live. Basically, conversation with Ryan O'Reilly, who is still on the injury reserve. He says, I want to be here. He basically said he would stay and he's open to a team-friendly deal. He did say, though, if they do plan on rebuilding, he'd need to reevaluate. He wants to win. So basically, as long as they're still in a winning mentality in the next couple of years. So interesting to hear him officially say that he'd take a team-friendly deal. I mean, that's the kind of thing, we made fun of Nathan McKinnon, right? How I'll take less money just to play here and win a cup here. And well, he wins a cup and then it's, okay, give me a max contract. And, so that kind of language, when he says that, you're either going to have to stick to that or get a lot of flack from people about how you said you'd take a team-friendly deal, but then you didn't. So I think at this point in his career, I could see him meaning that and saying, yeah, I just want to win again. Give me another championship. Pay me somewhat what I deserve. Let's go get another one. I just wonder how much he looks and realizes that his defense all have no trade clauses, because you're not going to win with this defense.
Right. I think that was the perfect place to plug this in for tonight's discussion, given that this next segment is going to be nothing but what the fuck was Doug thinking about these defensemen's contracts? Holy shit.
Yeah. So would you be happy with them keeping O'Reilly? And I wonder too, to kind of add on that as I ask a question and then I decide I'm going to talk. I wonder if he'd be interested in we're going to trade you now, but kind of the Doug Waite, Keith Tkachuk mentality. We'll trade you if you want to win. We're going to get assets for you, but then come back in the summer and we'll resign you. I wonder if he's open to that too.
I would think not. I think, he doesn't want to win just one more time, right? And I think that's kind of what, where Waite and Tkachuk were. They never had their chance, right? He's won before. He wants that again and again. And say he goes to Toronto, somehow magically they fit him in under the cap there. He goes there and he wins. And, it's the homecoming every Canadian boy dreams of. You win the Leafs their first cup since, 67, right? And I don't see him leaving if they can, work some, some cap space, caps going on next year. I think he'd, after that point, he'd take a hometown discount to stay there. So I don't like that. I think if Doug can work some magic, convince him that we're going to be competitive. It's not going to be this year. It's not going to be next year, but we'll give you a 3-year deal. By the third year, we're going to be competitive again, we will have reshaped things, and you're going to be our, at that point, probably our third line center. I'd see that deal.
But man, I mean, the problem with that is, I mean, he can still provide you pretty solid effort, gamesmanship. So is he really going to sit here and say, okay, yeah, we can suck for 2 years, and then on my last year, we can make a run? Or is he more like, I still want to win, send me somewhere who can win now and the year after and the year after?
Yeah,
That's the
I don't know.
question.
I mean, I would think you'd almost have to promise him stay here, and next trade deadline we'll bring back David Perron for you, right? That seems to be the to me the clearest way to keep him here, right? Perron's on a 2-year deal, so if the Blues are anywhere close to it next year, try to work out a deal with Yzerman and bring him back. I don't know. It's just going to be so tough, unless they can, like, is there an adult professional hockey league, NHL level, advanced defenseman school that we might be able to send Parayko to and reteach him the position? I don't know.
I don't, and I'm not making a joke here. I don't know how Ryan O'Reilly can look at this team's structure, this defense, especially, and again, not just the defenseman, mostly the defenseman, but the structure overall of the way this team plays defense, and say, yeah, we could win now. I don't see how a man who understands the game as well as he does and works as hard as he does to look at this and say, yeah, let's keep this running. We can do something, because again, you look at the no trade clauses on this defense, it's not getting any better in the next 5 years unless you can convince these guys to waive their no movement or no trade clauses. It just, I don't know. I feel like this comes with some more strings attached for O'Reilly. If he's really thinking about this the right way, he's saying, I will stay if you don't rebuild and we go to win. And I think behind the curtain, he's telling Armstrong, you also need to find a way to figure out this fucking god-awful defense. That's the only way this team can win, is if you improve there somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's got to be somebody that will, I think Krug would be open to a move elsewhere. I don't know about Parayko. That's I think at this point, especially after the other article that JR had that came out today, he's a third pairing defenseman in practice today. And Berube's, finally trying to send a message to him. That's I don't think that kind of wake up call is gonna do it for him. Maybe it does, but man, I think he's the guy that everybody would cast aside right away. But who would take him? He just got demoted to the third line, and he's the tied for most expensive defenseman with the longest contract that we have here.
Yeah, 100%.
Not a good situation.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about this defense, and maybe even the overarching conversation here is, how does it get better to keep guys like Ryan O'Reilly, even maybe a Vladimir Tarasenko here on team-friendly deals. Justin Falk, no trade clause. And okay, who has no trade clauses on the defense? Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, Colton Parayko, Nick Leddy, Marco Scandella has a modified no trade clause. Falk, Krug, and Parayko all make $6.5 million, at least with the cap hit. And Falk and Krug are until 2027-28. Parayko is until 2029-2030. How about that? In 2029, we will still be watching Colton Parayko turn the puck over in his own zone left and right. How sad does that make you?
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful to think that. I mean, maybe by then, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Is he still a single guy? Has he had, gotten to the point of being married, having kids? Because that
I have no
that
idea.
does change some people, right? And I don't know. He still seems so young, and I don't know that this is St. Louis, where we're not Toronto, where there blogs and shit, popular blogs, uh, dedicated to that kind of thing. But I don't know what can bring him back around mentally, because I think that's the biggest thing with his game. I think his hockey IQ plateaued after Petro left. It
Yeah.
just I think Petro was like the Pareko whisperer or something, and could tell him what he needed to do and he would do it. Van Ryn doesn't have it, right?
No.
And nobody else on this defense has that with them. So something's got to change.
I think the biggest problem here is that Colton Parayko, and it has been proven since Pietrangelo left, is not a number one in the NHL. He is a great supplementary piece. And I'm not telling anybody listening to the show anything they don't already know. He's good at moving the puck. Like, once he gets the puck in the neutral zone, and we talk about he doesn't do it enough, but when he does, he moves the puck into the offensive zone fine. Once he's out of his own zone, he can find a forward on the breakout. But, man, defensively, he's garbage. I mean, he is a dumpster fire. Again, I make the joke, but I'm semi-serious. You might as well just play him on the fucking wing, because he's not a defenseman.
No, it's go back to the first goal last night, right? Tyler Pitlick gets a turnover on Tage Thompson, but Thompson takes it right back. Parayko, just he'd been chasing around, and maybe it's the second goal I'm thinking of, but chasing the puck and left the slot wide open. And it was Parayko, or it was Tarasenko and Shen. It was the second goal. Tarasenko and Shen, and they're not positioned well to get over and cover Tuck, and just easy goal. Just terrible chase job by him, and that's what he does too often. And when you're a guy that size with that wingspan, you should never get that far away from your slot, right? You are not Cale Makar. You are a damn good skater. You've got good speed, but in your defensive zone, you need to dominate that slot. And he doesn't do that.
Yep. So we talked about Fall, Kruk, and Parayko. Letty, again, no trade clause as well. $4 million each year until 2026, 2027. Scandella, 2 years left at 3.275. Bortuzzo, who I will still say I think was a good contract for him to sign a couple years ago. He's at $950K until 2024, 2025. Mikkola, UFA at the end of the season, which we might discuss here in a little bit more of what we've heard from Elliot Friedman. But Kelly Rosen has a $762,000 until 2024, 2025 on the Bucks. It's bad when you look at the names I just listed. Let me ask you, Bill, who's the best defenseman? Defense, moving it to the offense, playing defensive hockey. Who is it?
It's Callie Rosen.
It's Callie Rosen. And he is by far the least paid player that we just listed. And that's bad.
Did he play last night? No, he did not. Tyler Tucker and Nico Mikkola played because Krug came back.
I've walked myself back a little bit on Mikkola. I think he can still be a good, solid defenseman in the NHL for a long time, but I think he's had a rough year and a half. I don't think he belongs as an everyday defenseman on this team.
No. And Kurt was Slack messaging us about that the rumor that's been floating out there that Edmonton might be kicking the tires on him, so maybe we should pump his tires. instead
Yes.
of, tear them down.
Yeah, Edmonton, if you're listening.
He's a change of scenery guy. And
Exactly.
he's from Scandinavia. He likes it way up north cold.
Yep.
Do it.
Oh, I love this. I don't know why I haven't thought about this. Callie, kiss from a Rosen, says Matt Harris. Love it. Love it. Best part of that movie, Batman Forever, was that song.
Or the Vacation reboot.
Oh, yeah. That was in that, wasn't it? Man, good call. No, so again, we've broken this down, for at least a year now, that there's not really anything you can just do with this defense. It's not like you can just say, well, it's easy. Trade this guy, trade him for a draft pick, move him to a team that is rebuilding and will take on his contract. You can't do that with any of these guys. Is Torrey Krug going to accept a deal to Arizona? No, not going to happen. Is Justin Falk going to take a deal to go to Anaheim? No, absolutely not. You need to make a hockey trade for these guys, as they call it, because if they're going to get traded, again, maybe Doug Armstrong comes to him and says, hey, we're open to moving you. Where would you want to go? Where would you waive your no trade? There's a good chance all of these guys could say, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm happy here. My family loves it here. We're staying. But, let's say Torrey Krug, for whatever reason, always seems to be the guy everybody goes to, right? Torrey Krug's the guy you can move. Maybe he's the one that would waive his no trade clause. Okay, maybe he tells you, I'll go to Boston. Boston might just be like, dude, we're having a record season. We don't need Torrey Krug. Take your Torrey Krug and shove it up your ass.
Yeah, but Boston is shopping for a left defenseman, right? Because that was one thing on last week's 32 Thoughts or this weekend's 32 Thoughts that they were kicking around. Where's Bo Horvath going to wind up in Boston or New Jersey? And I think Friedman said what he hears is Boston's looking for a left defenseman. Why not reunite them? Problem is long term. The contracts are long term, right? All of these guys the defense are not short term contracts. Look what short term defense contracts get you. Ben Sherratt, a first rounder. What the fuck? I don't think we can get a first rounder for Krug.
No,
because no team is looking to add that term.
Well, and it's a very deep draft coming up. And
right.
I mean, Ben Sherratt was a UFA when he landed that, right?
Right. So it's rentals, right? That's rental prices. None of the Blues defensemen are rentals. They're going to be a fixture on your team.
I hate to say it, because listen, this defense is terrible. But if you just pluck one of these guys out of the contract or out of the defense and don't replace them, it actually will get worse. But I will say, to unload one of these contracts, I would do that in a heartbeat. If you could just move Torrey Krug for a 6th round pick, I would at least consider it, because I'm like, okay, that's a huge contract off the books that will allow the Blues to have a little bit of play money to figure this defense out. But when you have $6.5 million invested in Falk, same price in Krug, same price in Parayko for multiple years, I think you have to consider, well, let's just remove one of these guys. And that way, because if you don't, and you're talking about, and that's the talk, right? That's what people have talked. Well, you got to add somebody to this defense to make them better. You're going to put more money into this defense. You got to eventually spend money on offense. Like, it can't just be 6 high-priced defensemen and then Thomas and Kyrou is your whole team. You can't do that.
Right. And that's clearly, that was Armstrong's strategy, was to have what I'm sure he thought is a modestly priced defense. Everybody at 6.5 and no higher, right? I think that's middle finger to Alex Petrangelo. I know Kurt. I know that it wasn't the money with him, but I think that that's every time he hands out a 6.5 contract, because that's what Petro was on before he got his money in term and no trade, no movement from Vegas. But yeah, I think that's that's a message that he sent out. He's like, I think that's a good market rate for top quality NHL defenseman, except he overvalued at least one of those guys. And now I think we've overplayed Justin Falk, and he's regressing hardcore.
Oh, yes, he is. He is not. I thought he looked great again to start the season in terms of Blues defenseman. Clearly the best. I think he's right there with Krug, maybe not Parayko, but Leddy, Bortuzzo. He has not been the defenseman the number one guy that kind of usurped the role from Parayko. He's not been that.
No.
So we got a comment here from the Meeker. Krug has been injured a lot also. Would anyone take him? Again, I think there are teams that would take him. I really do. I think, again, in Arizona, in Anaheim, teams that are like, we are kind of in the middle of a rebuild. And by the time that we're ready in 2 to 3 years, we'll already have this defenseman that can move the puck really well and can do this, can do that, and we can plug it on the power play. Like, I think there are teams that would welcome him even at that contract, but the problem is that no trade clause. He's not going to a team like that. He's going to a winner, and a winner is not taking on that contract right now. It's just not going to happen. And I'll add too that and we've talked about with this defense before too, that individually, I look at this defense and I say, okay, Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, Colton Parayko, Nick Leddy, even Marco Scandella. That's not bad. Those guys aren't bad individually, but they are not working. They just don't work. Even last year, this team was a high-powered scoring machine, and they still kind of are at this point. And they got a solid goaltender back there that will stop the pucks he's supposed to stop. But you're not going to beat the best of the West with this defense. I don't care if you think you can put up 10 goals a game. You're going to give up 11. You're not going to win with this defense. So the question becomes, what can you do? What can you do? And so, again, you mentioned that we've been kind of chatting with Kurt on the side about Edmonton possibly kicking the tires on Nico Mikkola. I know that he's young. He's not one of the high-paid defensemen. If you can get anything for any of these defensemen, I think you do it. I think what you got to hope for at this point is a Tyler Tucker steps in and plays well. A Dmitry Samorukov steps in, and maybe he can play better D. And you get these guys kind of on entry-level deals, lower level deals that can step in, and maybe they find some chemistry with each of these guys, and for a couple of years, maybe things work out. But Mikkola, clearly not one of those guys that's been able to do that with any of these guys. So I'm all for, if you can get anything for him, a draft pick, mid-level prospect, I do it.
Yeah. And, it looks like one of these people in the chat has access to our private document outline of the show.
Yeah, it does.
Did you notice that?
I did.
You notice that? So I do.
He's stealing our lead.
Right. He's either that or he's telling us to hurry the fuck up. But just real quick, I want to get to comments from Divide by Zero. He's taken time off of work to listen to us and asked us to comment on the brain trust. I don't think we're there yet, and I'm going to use this as our segue into the next section. I think it's you're looking at coaching adjustments first. We've talked about like, okay, so what is McTavish doing here now? He was like he was brought in to fill in for the guy that has the best team in the league. So maybe we missed an opportunity for the wholesale coaching change. Not turning it over to Jim Montgomery while we had him in the organization. But I think, to Kurt's point, you got to look at Van Ryn at this point, right? You have to make an adjustment on the coaching staff. Probably the best defensive coach out there just went to Vancouver with Tocchet and Sergei Gonchar.
In a very loud way, too.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, so I think I don't think we're at the brain trust level yet. I don't think you make an example of Chiarelli just yet. I think in that case, you kind of hope somebody comes along and offers him a job, a higher level job in another organization. But yeah, I don't think we're at the brain trust level just yet. I think Armstrong gets a chance to try to make this right. And I don't think Tom Stillman will force him out ever. I think when Armstrong goes, it's going to be on his terms. So
my only part of that is that I'll say, before we move on to Van Ryn here, I'm with you to a certain extent. Because I've said this on the show before, as pissed off as I am at how bad this defense is, every time that Armstrong made one of these signings, I remember the day that he signed Krug and then Pietrangelo left. I remember seeing him sign Krug and being excited. Like, that's a great fucking site. 6.5 for Torrey Krug? Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. I thought the Colton Parayko extension, great. Yeah. Justin Falk. Oh, my God, we're going to win another cup, because that was the year right after the Blues won the cup that summer that he brought in Falk. So every one of these, and even Nick Leddy to a certain extent, because it was basically, do you sign Leddy or do you let him walk and bring back Perron? Well, goal scoring is not the problem. You need to find a defenseman, and he seemed to pair pretty well with Parayko in the short stint they were together. So every one of his signings I've not hated on terms of the defense as of late. If you were to ask me, when did you think they should fire Armstrong? It was before they won the cup. I still think, I look at what he's done since the cup, and I say, on paper, and at the time when it happened, I would have done the same fucking thing. Like, this is a great move. This should work out for the Blues. Right. Unfortunately, that's what we talk about with the analytical people, right? You have to play the games.
Right.
They're playing the games, and it hasn't worked out.
Right. The chemistry is not there. Whatever it is, this group can't put it together as a group. To your point on those signings, we said at the time, when we signed Torrey Krug, we knew that Petro was gone, but you signed the next best defenseman that was available. And if you can do that at that price, that is a hell of a move. And, we gave kudos to him at the time. But yeah, at this point, you've got to do something. You're stuck with this group. You've got to do something. And, I don't think the broadcasters are going to go after the coaching staff ever,
no.
Because they're all in it together. But, yeah, Van Ryn at this point,
Well, I'll just finish my thought real quick and just say that I agree. I do not think Doug Armstrong needs to go, or Peter Chiarelli. But it is kind of funny that of all the signings that he's done over the years, Armstrong, that is, Steve Ott, Yori Laterra, God, there's a million more that I can't even think of. Derek Roy, just so many bad signings. That this, and I would not be shocked. Now, Tom Stillman does seem to have his trust in Armstrong, but it is funny that this is the one time where, like, every one of his signings I've been like, yeah, sure, that's not a bad signing. this could still be his downfall. This could still, maybe not this summer,
Right.
maybe not next season, but this could be, holy shit, dude, you have hamstrung this defense. And it's crazy to think that, because again, every time you looked at one of these signings, it was, that's a great signing. Good job, Doug. Not
Yeah.
turning out that way.
Right. And I think, the thing we paid the least amount of attention to is the term that everybody got. And that seems to be the downfall right now.
Yep. So let's get into talking about firing Mike Van Ryn. Before we get to that, we'll read Kurt's comment here. We've been saying fire Van Ryn for months, you hosers.
I
believe it's pronounced Hofer.
I believe that's in response to my joke about him trying to push us on our he's beating us to our lead.
Yes. So that is the question right now, Bill, and I think that a lot of people are asking this question right now. How does Mike Van Ryn still have a job? And honestly, again, I mentioned that the defense could be the downfall for Doug Armstrong. This is a question for Doug Armstrong. And this could be an issue. Why are you waiting so long to fire this guy? I mentioned a couple weeks ago, same thing with when Mike Yeo was clearly going to be fired. I mean, it was obvious. This team is playing a very lackluster elementary style of hockey after Doug had a huge offseason, went and got O'Reilly, Maroon, all the things he did to build that Stanley Cup roster. And they still just, in every game, we were sitting here basically counting the clock, like watching the clock. Okay, will Mike Yeo be fired today? Will Mike Yeo be fired today? And then finally it happened. It was, holy shit, what took you so long? And I think that's the same thing here with Mike Van Ryn. Mike Van Ryn was brought in, again, that Stanley Cup year. He brought in a man-to-man style in 2018, 2019. But the Blues were armed with Alex Pietrangelo, a much younger and less injured Colton Parayko, Jay Bouwmeester, Joel Edmondson, Carl Gunnarsson, and Vince Dunn. So you look at that sound defense. Before the turnaround, they had that season, that is, they had a 3.28 goals against per game, which was 24th, and not terrible. 30.0 shots against per game, which was 8th. Let's also keep in mind Jake Allen was also in net and Chad Johnson for a lot of those games. So clearly the defense was not getting it done, and as well as the offense. Larry Robinson, who was an advisor to the team at the time, he had to be brought in to help around the same time as the turnaround. So from when he basically was brought in to help with the defense, the Blues had gone for the rest of the season with a 2.14 goals against per game, which was second, and a 27.3 shots against per game, which was tied for first with the Boston Bruins. And so, again, the goals against per game has to do with Jordan Binnington stepping in and playing fucking incredible. One of the best runs we'll ever see from a goalie. But he was struggling then. And this defense has struggled since. Even the year that they had Pietrangelo after the Cup run, they were good. They were pretty good. But there was a lot of the same things we saw now. A lot of backdoor stuff. A lot of tap-ins in front of the net. Just not good defensive play. And it's this structure that it's going to work for some teams. It doesn't work for the Blues. This season, up until the games tonight, they had a 3.56 goals against per game, which was 25th, and 31.9 shots against per game, which is 22nd. So basically, if you take away Larry Robinson, which this team has, the defense sucks. So I beg the question again, Bill. Why is Mike Van Ryn still employed by the St. Louis Blues?
Matt Harris thinks it's because he has naughty pics of Armstrong.
Possible. That's one explanation.
Yeah, I think it's hesitancy to make a change mid-season when it's not your head coach. You don't see it too often, but at this point, don't the Blues have to try? I mean, you can't. We talked ad nauseum tonight about how fairly unmovable the pieces are here, right? Maybe somebody takes flyer on Krug. Maybe Edmonton wants Mikkola. You got two guys gone. Maybe that starts to change things, and you start finding other chemistry. I just don't, I think you got to bring somebody in who can get Colton Parayko right. I think that has to be the number one job of the defensive coach on this team. And
Yeah.
I don't trust Van Ryn to be that guy at this point.
There's got to be a new, and again, implementing new styles for anybody who's ever played the game. It's hard to do even in a short training camp. Doing it mid-season is very difficult. So, like you said, Bill, I get the slight hesitation of, well, I don't want to make this change now because it's going to be hard on these guys to figure out a new strategy. But it can't get much fucking worse, can it? I mean,
no.
Again, Bennington maybe lately has not played his best, but he's still facing backdoor chance after backdoor chance. You can't, I don't care what level of hockey you're at. If you're allowing multiple backdoor chances a game, your defense ain't doing the job. And it's not just that. I mean, it's breakaways, it's not having good neutral zone play leading to turnovers. There's a lot that's not going right with this team. And I hate to put it all on Van Ryn because it is personnel. It is head coaching. I'm sure all of it all ties in together. But right now, again, you talk about what can I do? What can I do right now to make this defense better? Can't trade Falk. Can't trade Krug. Can't trade Parayko. Can't even trade Scandella. Can't trade Leddy. Like, I can't sit these guys either because I want their value to be up. And honestly, there's so much money tied into them. You can't send them down. And it just the schematics don't work. So what can I do? You can fire your defensive coach. That's about it. That's really all you can do right now outside of maybe trading Mikkola, which isn't going to do much.
Right. Except it kind of forces Berube's hand to put Rosen in. Like, seriously, we are not the biggest proponent of advanced stats, but he's an advanced stats darling this year. And maybe he's getting the favorable matchups, but I have a feeling that he was sat last night with Krug coming back in because Berube's just not comfortable having two guys of the same stature on the defense out there. He'd rather have big guys with long reach that chase the puck all over the place because they're big guys. I don't know. That was such a head scratcher to me. To have Rosen out of the lineup, but Tucker and Mikkola both there. Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And so maybe if you get Mikkola, off the roster, that opens up that spot for Rosen to be in there every night, which I think he deserves to be at this point until he proves us otherwise. Obviously, I don't think he's going to keep those numbers up long term, especially if he starts getting higher level minutes. I don't see that happening in terms of the higher level minutes, but I don't think I still think the biggest problem is going to be Parayko and getting him to play defensive hockey night in, night out. That has got to be the number one priority.
I mean, I can't. I'm not even thinking of any name that is even possibly tied to trade rumors except Jacob Chikrin. I don't know how. Well, okay. Besides him, he's the only one I can think of. The only thing I could think you could really do to make Colton Parayko better is, again, you're going to have to find a way to move Falk or Krug, and even maybe Nick Leddy. Bring in a number one defenseman. Get somebody who's actually a number one, and then move Parayko down to your number 2 or 3, which is what he was when Pietrangelo was here. I think that's the only thing you can do to make him work on this roster. Trotting him out there as a number one, They've tried it now for 2 seasons. It ain't working. He is clearly not a number one. And I think with that contract, the beauty of the contract, even though it's a long one, is the teams will look at that and say, hey, he's a great supplemental piece for our defense. But again, the problem is he going to waive his no trade? So I think the only thing you can do is bring in somebody else to take some of his minutes. But who's out there for that? And I mentioned Jacob Chikrin. If you bring him in, again, that's going to be a lot more money going into your defense. So you got to move one of the other high-priced guys. Is he that much better than Parayko in terms of defense? He's a great puck mover, great shot, good power play guy, and he's structurally a good defenseman. But, I mean, in terms of actually playing D, yeah, he's a big guy, but he plays similar to Parayko. So I don't know if that's that big of an upgrade to make a big risk like that.
Yeah. Ken asks in the chat what number one D are available. I think Chikrin's probably the closest one.
Yeah.
He's obviously Arizona's number one, but I don't know that he would be a number one across the league.
And then long comment here from Matt Harris. Krug just hasn't been a good fit. Other than running the power play, I don't know if you can move him. To me, you move Tarasenko for whatever because he is leaving in July anyway. Try and find common ground with O'Reilly, but if you can't move him, oh boy, I gotta actually close it to read the rest. If you do move him, you can try and circle back on him in July. Oh wow, that's a great comment here by. Actually, I'm gonna give this comment of the show. I usually give it to Funny. This is a great comment here from, I'm going to say Carissa Butler. I think that's a new live listener. Can you imagine dealing Leddy and we lost Perron for that? How about this one? They trade Nick Leddy for David Perron. That would be something.
Well, I think a lot of people would be like, well, you're just making up for a wrong.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think Leddy's probably been the steadiest guy. Leddy and Falk have been the steadiest two guys.
Agreed.
And if we're picking and choosing who's staying, I want those two guys here.
Yeah, I agree. If they can move Krug and Parayko, I would be. And I actually like Krug. I don't have a problem with Krug either. Again, individually, these guys are great. It's just they're not gelling. But yeah, I think I agree with you. If you can keep two of them, I keep Leddy, I keep Falk. Great supplemental pieces. I think Leddy he's not your number two, but I think he plays with your number one. Right. And I think Falk is basically your number two. Put him out there in the power play, put him out there even on kills. Excuse me.
And I think
that's a great. Go ahead.
I think he's run down at this point because he's played more like a number one this year.
Yep.
And at this point in his career, he is much better suited as that number two guy. And yeah, it's this is depressing.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating because and I think and again, going back to the Doug Armstrong conversation, should he be on the hot seat? It's funny because I remember a good friend of the show, a good friend of mine, Eddie Garcia of the Puck Podcast. I remember before the Blues won the Cup, talking with him about how, the Kings, they won the first Cup. Clearly they won a second one too, but they won that first Cup and they just started retaining everybody. Kopitar gets a big deal. Doughty gets a big deal. Dustin Brown gets a big deal.
Mike Richards.
Jeff Carter, Mike Richards, like all these guys start getting huge deal. Alec Martinez, I believe, was another one. Johnny Quick. They all get these big deals. And I remember asking him before they won the second one, how are you going to react in 3 years when, a guy like Dustin Brown, which is what happened, wasn't the guy he was, and this team's not performing? What do you, how are you going to feel? I don't give a shit. They won a Stanley Cup. And
how do you respond? Do you call it a tip to the Border Patrol? Hey, Mike Richards is coming across. You might want to check his luggage.
Yeah, right. No, I remember hearing him say that to me and just being like, Okay, that is, you know what? I think I would feel the same way. And like I said, lucky for him, they won a second one. So that just added to why it was good what they did. But, I thought about it when the Blues won the Cup, and I remember they re-signed Braden Shen. Remember, he was all over trade rumors. They re-signed Shen. They re-signed oh hell, who was the other guy they re-signed after the Cup? Drawing a blank, but either way, they re-signed a couple. Biddington a couple years later got a pretty big deal, and I remember thinking, okay, this is all great. Well, now we're in fucking cap hell because of these contracts, and guess what? Most of these guys were not on the Cup team. So if somebody were to ask me that question, well, how do you feel about that Cup now after all these contracts? These guys weren't on the Cup team. So I'm pissed about them. Like, again, I'm not mad at Armstrong himself because I think at the time I agreed with all of them, but this isn't the same question as what the Kings did, what the Blackhawks did. These guys are all signed, so they win the Cup. Some guys move on. They trade a couple of them. They go out and sign these other guys to win another Cup, and it ain't working. That, to me, is another thing that Stillman can point to and say, okay, you did this after the Cup win. I'm sorry, you got to go. You didn't do this right. You didn't manage it well. And unfortunately, for Armstrong, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, I still don't see that happen. Still don't see Armstrong leaving here not on his own terms. And I think Stillman has all the trust in the world with him. He'll give him every chance to fix it. And Blues fans like us have a long memory. We won the Cup. We still, will, at the end of the offseason, talk about how great it is that we won the Cup 4 years ago.
Yeah, when they miss the playoffs this year, I'm still going to be like, well, at least I saw a Cup win.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make me feel better.
Right. Unlike people
Morris,
like Austin Lynch who weren't born when the Blues won the Cup.
That's right. Yes. Ken Morris asked, did not the Kings trade Shen and Wayne Simmons for Mike Richards? Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So that was Shen going to Philly, which is where the Blues got him from.
How much cocaine was involved in that deal? Seriously, stop and think about it. Mike Richards busted at the border with, I don't know if it was cocaine, but it was some kind of drug. He was found. He got busted first in Las Vegas, right? The poolside in Las Vegas, with some drugs in his swim trunks, I think, and then going across the Canadian border, he got busted. And then, so Braden Shen's like the clean element here. And he gets traded for him, and then he gets traded for Laterra. Huh. Interesting. Never thought about that till now.
Trying to make a connection here with Braden Shen.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I never thought about that. Right?
That's a good point.
He's been traded for the two biggest drug profile people in the league.
Yeah. Well, we talked at exhaustion about the Blues struggles, and Kurt, by the way, says, I'm with you, Bill. I don't see Armstrong getting fired like ever. I can totally see that. Unfortunately, I'm begrudgingly with you guys as well. I think there's going to come a point where you have to. Let me ask you this, Bill, because this is where I think I draw the line. Blues decide it's a full-on rebuild. Armstrong goes to Stillman, says, we got to rebuild. We have to. We're going to get rid of these UFAs. We're going to, next year, we got a couple other guys that are going to be UFA. We should move them too. Let's rebuild this roster. And in 4 to 5 years, Thomas and Kyrou will be veterans. They can lead this club to another Cup. Do you keep Armstrong through that? Do you accept him being the face of the rebuild?
I personally don't, but I think Tom Stillman does.
I hate that. The guy has been, and again, I've been a fan of his since the Cup win. Before that, I was not. I thought he gave away too many draft picks. When he left Dallas, the cupboard was empty because he just kept making terrible trades and moving his first round pick. I was in fear he was going to do that here with the Blues too, but I think if you rebuild, you gotta go with a new face. You gotta get somebody else that's got a different mindset than Armstrong, who has always been a win now guy. I want to win the cup. I want to win. We have to win, and I would go with somebody else. But I'm with you. I don't know if Stillman makes that move.
I think they have Stillman system down for a serious conversation and just ask, what do you think? Do you still have it in you? And he'll trust whatever he says. But it would be on Armstrong's terms if he said no.
Yeah, very possibly. He knows he'll get another job somewhere. I mean, the old boys club in the NHL, right? Like, these guys always find work.
Now's a good time to set up a segue for one of our hopefully quickly upcoming segments. But just a reminder, Mike Yeo is behind an NHL bench again.
Oh, God, doesn't that just make you sick? Doesn't make sense. Well, speaking of being behind the bench, great segue, Bill. The Vancouver Canucks made a coaching change, but in a very messy way. We'll discuss that and get some of Bill's favorite cookie recipes after this word from Center Ice Brewery.
Do you like hockey? No, of course you do. Do you like beer? Of course you do. Are you 21? Let's hope so. If you answered yes to all of those questions, run on down to your local beer distributor and pick up a 2-4 of Old Arena Lager, the Beauty IPA, or any other delicious hockey-themed beer from Center Ice Brewery. That's right, Center Ice Brewery beer is available at various beer stores around town, so check around for the one closest to you. That's Center Ice Brewery. Let's go Blues!
And it's cooking hour with Bill Day. Bill, what do you got for us?
Shortbread cookies. That's the way to go. They're so easy to make and so hard to screw up. Yeah, shortbread cookies.
All right. Well, there's your favorite cookie recipes with Bill Day. I had to throw that one in there, Bill. Hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the Vancouver Canucks, Bill, I don't know if you saw this. The NHL All-Star Skills Competition is going to have a couple new. Now, we saw it last year with Vegas, where they, shot from the fountain. They did something else. Oh yeah, they were shooting the playing cards with the accuracy shooting, which was awful. I hated that one.
Mm-hmm.
But they literally had to eliminate guys just because they didn't have enough cards left. Right? That drove me nuts. It was like, you're literally telling guys they can't compete because you don't have enough cards left. That's not fair.
Yeah, the poorly constructed gimmick, right? And that's the thing. I mean, it's the All-Star game. It's gimmicky, right? They did some gimmicky stuff, when it was here, right? The All-Star game. It's what they do. I like this whole dunk tank idea just because it's a gimmick. Embrace it. It's a fucking carnival. Just embrace it. Right.
So talking about your dunk tank idea we'll get to here. The splash shot is what they're calling it. Basically, it'll take place on the Fort. So it's in Miami this year. It's in Florida. So it's going to take place on a Fort Lauderdale beach. It's going to be 8 shooters, 2 in each division. Players are going to compete head to head. Basically, it's accuracy shooting. So you'll have all the targets you have to hit. And then after you hit those, you can attempt a dunk shot. So basically, your player you're playing against, I guess, will be, I'm guessing, sitting on some kind of pedestal on top of a dunk tank. So once you hit all your attempts, you're allowed to dunk your opponent. So it'll be interesting to see how this works and who gets dunked.
Yeah. And somebody's gonna walk up and push it at some point if nobody can actually hit the target. So yeah, I'll look forward to that. It's nice and gimmicky. And the pitch and puck, that I like this idea too. If you're in South Florida, you gotta incorporate golf.
Yeah, so the pitch and puck, 6 stars play a par 4 course featuring an island green. The lowest score wins. If there's a tie for fewest shots, it's the longest drive determines the winner. My question on this, so I didn't see if this was, is this actual golf or is this with like a stick and ball, like a hockey stick?
I'm thinking it's all hockey related, whether
Yeah.
it's a ball or a puck.
All yeah, I guess we'll find out.
The details aren't there, so you tune in to find out.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's part of this. But I like that idea too. I don't know. Like I said, I'm with you. It's gimmicky. You know, I remember last year, the wife and I just were sitting around, and the kid went to bed early, and I was just like, let's turn on the All-Star Skills competition. She was like, didn't really want to. But we watched it, and we actually ended up just having a couple drinks and enjoying it and having fun watching it. We talked all throughout it, so we didn't hear any of the commentary, which I heard a lot of the commentary was bad because it was like the one with the fountain shooting. I heard that basically whoever the announcer was, and forgive me for not knowing it, was basically just silent. Like, and he would eventually he would throw in a couple jabs at players, and it was just so awkward and cringy. So I don't know. We'll see if that's the case this year. Hopefully, it's not. But there's another big one that was added, and Bill, I don't know if this makes any sense to you. I'm going to read this. It's pulled directly from ESPN.com. So this is how it was pitched to fans of the game. It's called the Tendy Tandem. So this is the exact quote here from ESPN.com. One goalie from each division will be designated the shooting goalie and one in net goalie. The shooting goalie from a division will take a shot from his designated mark at a net. 3 points will be earned if the shot goes in the hole, 2 points if the shot hits the in-net target, and no points if the shot misses the net. The in-net goalie from the opposing division will face 3, 2, or 1 players, depending on the points earned by the shooting goalie. A save earns the in-net goalie the points based on the number of players faced. The goalie tandem with the most total points wins. Does that make any sense to you?
A little bit. I like the idea that it kind of starts with a goalie accuracy shooting, and that cuts down the number of attempts that the shooters get. Right. So you've got an offensive side and a defensive side. You're not going to try having a goalie breakaway thing like they did a few years back. That was just terrible. Right. So you've got a goalie shooting at a target to try to limit the number of shooters on the other guy.
Okay.
And so I think it's interesting. Will the goalies in this, will they hit a target? Hopefully. I was just trying to look real quick who the tendies are. Linus Olmark, Logan Thompson, and hell, Logan Thompson. What a great story this kid is.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. He last year when Vegas was so bad, he kept getting sent out there night after night, getting hung out to dry, and he looked so good doing it. And he's having an all-star season, and he's getting rewarded for it. Love that story. But Olmark,
well, that tells you that Robin Later is definitely getting traded when he comes back, right? No way Vegas keeps him around because they don't keep anybody around.
Right? No, he definitely gone if he makes it back. But Ilya Sorokin, Stuart Skinner, best mustache of any goalie since Billy Smith, probably.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
Ron Hextall.
Or Bill Day.
Yeah. Maybe
you got
maybe,
quite. You looks like you're. Are you growing this out a little bit more than the rest?
No, just it's the rest is just thin. But actually, I'm trying. If we ever get a game of Chell together, this is the look I'm going for on the game. So I'm trying to bring that into real life.
We got to do that. We got to
I
do
don't
that
know what my
soon.
problem is, but yeah. So the goalies are Shesterkin and Sorokin from the Metro, Vasilevsky and Olmark from the Atlantic, UC Soros, Connor Hellebuck from the Central, Logan Thompson and Stuart Skinner. So I don't know. I don't think Soros is that great of a puck handler. So I'm thinking Hellebuck's going to be the guy, but he's not that great. I don't think
Gonna
the
say
Central's going to do so well in this competition,
no.
unless it's on the defensive side of it. But yeah, I will probably tune in just for this part. That and the Island Green on the pitch and puck. So
That'll be cool. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I actually, even though it's not as good to me as it used to be, because I don't think guys are as competitive as they used to be in this, but I do enjoy the festivities in terms of the competition here more than the game itself. More, I watched when they used to do the player draft when they had the captains picking teams. I watched it. It was cool. It was kind of fun to watch guys kind of get a little tanked. But this to me is the highlight of the weekend. I love this. I love, and it's, the NHL's fastest skater, the hardest shot, breakaway challenge, and accuracy shooting. They're all coming back too. That's all it's kind of the focus of this event. So we'll still see that. But yeah, the new stuff, yeah, sure. Add in more stuff. I'll say the one thing that I didn't like, and they brought it back last year for Vegas, just because Vegas was so showy. I do not like what is that called? Like the skills shootout or whatever, where guys are trying to do tricks. And
yeah.
I just think that's so gimmicky and so over the top that I'm like, okay, can we just get through this faster, please?
Yeah, it jumped the shark its first year in Montreal, right? You had Ovechkin with the safari hat and Patrick Kane with the Superman thing, and
that one pissed me off.
Yeah,
because that was Brian Elliott in net when he shot that.
Yep.
How did they think that was okay? What if one of those shards of puck went through his fucking went through his mask? That bothered me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that would have, if there would have been a couple shots of that, it would have happened because it was Patrick Kane shooting on Brian Elliott.
Yeah, that would have been quite the controversy.
Oh,
luckily we didn't get there, and the NHL, thought better of it going forward until last year. But
yeah, right.
Don't like that one at all.
Yep. Also included women's national team players, and I love that they do this too. They'll join in the festivities. Team USA's Alex Carpenter and Hillary Knight, and then Team Canada, Emily Clark, Rebecca Johnston, and Sarah Nurse will all be participating in these as well. So that's always fun to see them participate. We saw the one that got headlines was Kendall Coyne Schofeld in the fastest skater a couple of years ago. She was right there with every other NHL player. So seeing what these women can do is always really exciting.
Yep. Yeah, looking forward to that. Sarah Nurse is the face of the women's game on Chell. So glad that she's getting this opportunity to show her real life skills.
Have you played any of the women's version of the game in Chell yet?
Have not.
I haven't either.
Haven't gotten enough games in yet.
Yeah. I've done a little bit. I've just played franchise mode, but I when they introduced it in 22, I did play one or two games. It is a little different. They do call a lot more penalties because I am a body checker in that game first and foremost. So they'll call you a lot more consistently on body checks, but it's fun playing as the women, and I probably should at least give it a shot. Like I said, the only mode I've played is franchise mode. I haven't done anything else. So I know all the online stuff's a lot of fun to play. I need to get into that too.
Yeah, I've just been doing the offline World of Chell stuff, the Pro-Am stuff. That's about all I ever have time for. I can fit in, half an hour here and there and then get a couple of those games in. But
yeah, it's mostly what I do is I just sim through my season, and then I'll sim each game and I'll go through, and then in the third period, if I'm down by a goal or tied, I'll jump in and play. That's pretty much all I've been doing.
That's what I used to do. And yeah, just don't have time to construct a roster. So
Yeah.
I like the Chell. The 3-on-3 stuff is fun.
Yep.
The world of Chell.
And then Austin Lynch says, "All right, I can't sleep. Fuck sleep. Let's go Blues Radio. More important." And then he asks, "Wait, Jeff, when am I fucking you up in NHL, son? You have never been able to fuck me up in NHL, so don't even act like you're some badass, man. I cannot be beat. I want to play Bill. We need to make that happen soon. I'm interested to see because I know you've played as long as I have, so it'd be interesting to see how good you are at that game.
Yeah. We'll have to set it up and come up with some ground rules. So yeah,
ground rules. Yep, definitely. Matt Harris agrees with us. He says, "I play exclusively franchise mode. Fuck the online modes." I'll tell you, Matt, and this is my last point on this. The online modes have gotten a lot better over the years. I used to hate online too. Guys would just, there's the kids that go on there and just play 10 hours a day. And then I'll go on there and their players are 99s and I'm a 60. They don't let that happen anymore. Basically, it's a little bit more of a level playing field. You don't need to worry about that. I'll go in and I remember my first game, I did the one-on-one, whatever that's called, the threes or whatever.
yeah.
And I stomped a guy who clearly had been playing a long time because it said something like he had 50 games played already in like 3 days. So it was like, okay, this is a little bit more level than I was expecting. So it's gotten better. So last thing we'll mention, rapid fire tidbits from around the NHL. We've kind of referenced this a little bit already through the night. The Vancouver Canucks fired head coach Bruce Boudreau and replaced him with former Coyotes head coach Rick Tocchet and now former TNT broadcaster Rick Tocchet. And they did it. Excuse me. They did it in the most public way possible. The Canucks went 1-10-1 in Boudreau's final 12 games. President of Hockey Operations Jim Rutherford was critical of Boudreau's performance in several media interviews throughout the season. He even implied that Boudreau entered the season as the head coach only out of contractual obligation. So he was hired by the last president of Hockey Operations. So he even said, yeah, he's basically on the chopping block. Boudreau stated that he knew for, quote, an awful long time that his time was up. He said he didn't feel surprised when he was finally let go. I'll tell you, Bill, and I know you probably read a lot of the same stuff I've read, that his last game that he coached, I don't remember what game that was, but I believe it was 4 nights ago. He had invited in his other coaches into his office. They were basically drinking some kind of liquor. He was inviting players in one by one, saying their goodbyes. And it was still not even 100. Like, he still was not told he was fired, basically. Like, he knew it was coming. He just knew it. And it's because of what his president of Hockey Ops was saying to the media, what was being strewn through. We heard Rick Tocchet was interviewing before Boudreau was fired. I mean, it was a circus in Vancouver.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rumors got out, and that's naturally how it's going to work, right? Is especially in a Canadian market, word's going to get out, and Jim Rutherford owned it, right? To his credit, he owned it, said, yeah, I let it get out of hand. And he basically said, I am stepping back. I'm no longer going to be the face of this team. And the assistant's going to take that over now. And I think it's probably the right way to go. Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea that got floated quickly after Tocchet was officially announced. And that was have Boudreau take his spot on the TNT panel. I think that'd be pretty good. He was doing work. He was doing work in between his gig, TV work, but in between being fired by Minnesota and hired by Vancouver. So
yeah, NHL Network, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. It was a shit show, yeah. Hopefully we don't wind up having to go through anything like that here.
Yeah, and like that, and that's the thing that sucks is like, listen, Vancouver is been underperforming for years. Even before Boudreau was there, to me, they've been underperforming. But when the focus is on when are they going to fire the head coach, that sucks for everybody involved. I mean, you never like to see, we're sitting here talking about how Mike Van Ryn is terrible and needs to be let go. At the same time, you don't want to see anybody let go of their job. It's terrible. And I hate even as a person talking about it and wanting it. And I know that there's a ton of people who are been involved in this situation who feel awful about what happened. So let's just add that caveat in there too. But when the focus of the team is they're going to fire the head coach, when is it going to happen? The players hate that. Right. Obviously, the coach hates it. The president of hockey ops, who's kind of been the one behind it, he hates it because that shouldn't be the focus of your team. It's just a bad situation all around. And yeah, I'm with you. Jim Rutherford did basically come out and apologize and say, I'm sorry I let it get this far. It was him that let it happen. So yes, owning it was huge. But I actually feel like he didn't actually apologize to Bruce Boudreau. I would have liked to have seen that, saying, I'm sorry to Bruce for what happened. It was more of I'm sorry that I let it get this far. I'm sorry I let this happen. Apologize directly to Bruce. I think he deserves. He's a good man. He's, we joke about his inability to succeed in the playoffs, but he's a good coach. He's a good man. Seems like players love him. So he's going to land on his feet, like you said, whether it's in the panel somewhere or if it's another coaching gig, he's going to be fine. But yeah, you hate to see it unfold the way it unfolded.
Right. And you can't treat an original cast member of Slapshot with that kind of disrespect.
I'll agree with you on that. We got a question. We'll wrap up with this one. Austin Lynch. Hey, hockey guys. What do you think of the All-Star jerseys? So if those have not seen them, just go on social. You'll see them. Just go to NHL.com. They're basically throwbacks to the old Western versus Eastern jerseys. I love them. I personally love them. Bill, how about you?
Yeah. I mean, aren't they throwbacks to the ones that they wore the last time the All-Star game was in Florida?
I believe so.
Yeah. So they're, the NHL and Adidas doing this whole, sticking with the reverse retro thing. I like them. Like I said in the chat to Austin, much better than those motocross terrible things that they had a couple years ago.
Yeah, those were terrible. I hated those. The last All-Star jerseys, honestly, I think I liked was the ones in Minnesota. I think that was 2004. The green ones, the green Western ones that had Western across the. Mm-hmm. I have one of those. That's that's the last jersey I think that I've really liked. I like this one a lot. I'm considering maybe getting one. We'll see.
Yeah. You have somebody on there? A player on that jersey, or is it somebody I know had a Sheldon Surrey one?
Oh, you're talking about in the 2004 jersey.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a name on that one.
Somebody I know had a Sheldon Surrey one, and that it was pretty sweet. But talk about a player from an era.
Well, now you got me thinking, because I was just going to get a plain one if I got one this year, but I might have to get a name on there. You know what? I don't have a Tarasenko jersey. So even though it's his last year here, likely, maybe that's what I get.
No, why not?
Pull a bill with David Perron, right? Anything else, Bill? Or are we ready to wrap her up?
We're 15 minutes behind what we wanted, so let's go ahead and shut her down.
I agree. It's been a very long day at the Ponder House, so I'm with you. So support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by ID Life, the world's only truly personalized vitamin platform based on a health assessment of your DNA. Visit rockinthatidlife.com for more information. That's rockinthatidlife.com, and get 10% off by emailing Dustin at rockinthatidlife@gmail.com and tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you. And by Mike Burgoyne from Real Brokerage Realty. Visit strikewithmike.com today for all of your home buying and selling needs. That's strikewithmike.com. Excuse me. And by Center Ice Brewery, St. Louis's tasty hockey-themed beer. Check out your local beer vendors for availability. That's Center Ice Brewery beer. Please drink responsibly. That will wrap up episode 18 of season 11 of the original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thanks for listening, and thanks to those who participated in the YouTube and Facebook live chats during the show. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. For the absent Kurt Price and Bill Day, I'm Jeff Ponder. Until next time, everyone, get well, Kurt Price. We need you next week. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
The Chiefs are at home tonight against Sport at the War Memorial at 8. Good seats are still available.
A look at fourth.
I think that went very well.
Thank you for listening to Let's Go Blues Radio. Now take off, hosers.
I want you to have a heart attack and die so that we never have to do this shit again.
Well, there's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Sorry.
St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Blues. Have you heard the news about our St. Louis Blues? They've only just begun, they're on their way to number one. Now there's no more blues for our St. Louis Blues. The Blues are on the ice tonight again. They're rough and tough and got the stuff to win. They'll always get one more, no matter what the score. They are quite a hockey team, my friend.